Good afternoon, everyone. How are you doing today? Oh, come on. That was a little weak. There we go. All right. Let me just preface this by saying the energy that you give us, we're going to give you, and we're excited to have this conversation about company culture, all right? So before we get started, I could introduce you, but I can't introduce you as good as you introduce yourself. So starting with this gentleman to my left, please introduce yourself, your name, your company, and give us a little spiel.
You bet. So my name is Ben Goodwin. I am the co-founder, CEO, and formulator for OLIPOP, which is a healthy soda company with a bunch of research, and we're just trying to get out there and shift soda consumption and health at scale. Yeah. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Give it up for OLIPOP.
Hi there, my name is Durana Elmi. I am the co-founder of Cymbiotika, also Chief Creative Officer with experiential, operations, and culture. Started the company in 2019, and we've been leading in the liposomal category.
Great.
All right,
great
Cymbiotika.
I'm Danny Weiner. I am the co-founder and CEO of HexClad Hybrid Cookware. Thank you. You've heard of it. We started in 2016 right here in Los Angeles in my basement. We were the first D2C cookware brand, now a flooded market of D2C cookware brands. But we are proudly Los Angeles based, and we're proud that we are growing the way this city is coming back from all the challenges we've gone through the last couple of years. So I'm really glad everybody's here in LA today.
All right, thank you. Give it up for our panelists. Okay, so today we're here to talk about company culture, which is a pretty hot topic these days, especially because with all of the discourse that's happening around the workplace. And I think a great place to start is just understanding how each of you are defining culture. You've built these fast-growing businesses. What does culture mean to you? And how has that definition evolved since you started your businesses, about a decade ago?
Yeah, I'll start. So brevity's not my strong suit, so just start throwing tomatoes if it gets too long. The way I have a bit of a mental model around how we approach culture. So first thing that I've been mindful of since the beginning are what I consider the two kind of major pitfalls that tend to be accompanied by a corporate culture. So one is the command and control environment, which is dehumanizing, authoritarian, very top-down. So we've taken a lot of steps to break that model, whether it's how we take care of our employees. So for example, we have unlimited PTO. We found out that a lot of companies with unlimited PTO, that we actually had a lower use rate of PTO than we wanted. So for example, last summer, we had an external campaign for consumers saying, hey, we're actually gonna build a vacation experience for you instead of kind of telling you how much you should be enjoying your summer. And we decided to do that internally as well. So for example, from June to September, we ran a raffle for $1,000. And the only thing you had to do to enter the raffle was you had to book at least one consecutive week off. And that was a way of—
I would enter that raffle quickly.
Please enter the raffle. But it was a way of us putting our money where our mouth is and saying, hey, look, your work-life balance is really important. This year we have something called Ollie Care Day. So one of the things we've recognized is people oftentimes put off preventative screening. So we've been working a lot with insurance companies using OLIPOP as a preventative benefit for going and getting screening, which has been a really successful program. So again, we wanted to internalize that and say, we have an official company holiday, and we really want you— we're not forcing anybody to do anything, but we really want you to go get some preventative screening. If there's any medical care you've been putting off, we want you to go ahead and take care of that. So we really try to find these ways to put our money where our mouth is. We have a personal development stipend, which covers, therapy and physical health, and we just find all these different ways to really humanize our employees' experiences. The other side of the pyramid and the other pitfall is what I call the entitlement culture, right? So sometimes these highly kind of liberal, people-first companies, and I'm left-leaning myself, so I don't have a problem with that, but it still can be very unhealthy to have an entitlement culture. So we're also a very performance-oriented culture. If somebody's really underperforming, we do let them go. We don't hold on to them forever. We have very strong accountability systems. We have very strong review systems to really just make sure that, hey, we have this wonderful place that we are. All of us have got it. We all eat what we kill. And so, we're going to be really there for you as people, but we're also going to really make sure that you deliver and perform. Now, all of that has to sit inside of a mission, that the mission motivates people and gives them real meaning behind their work. The mission also is something that is worth them putting that extra effort into, because we really select for people that are very motivated around that. And the final point I'll just make is, these are all nice to have things, and ethically they're part of our ethical composition. But they also really translate to very material competitive advantages for the business. So we have a retention rate in the high 90s. Inc. was actually really gracious enough to award us a Best Places to Work award last year, which I'm extremely grateful for. We've won some other Best Places to Work awards as well, so we're being recognized for that. And last year, I think we had almost 300,000 applications to work at OLIPOP. One of my favorite stats is that it's now harder to get a job at OLIPOP than to become a professional NBA player in the United States. So we're really able to capture the absolute best talent, and we put them through these really grueling interview processes, but we really can select for high performance people who really, really believe in the culture and the mission, and they're joining for the right reasons. So that's kind of our comprehensive system that I use.
Got it. And how about you, Durana?
So I would say culture is your values in motion. It's how you show up and how you show out. It really starts with the founders. For us early on, it was, I guess, very easy. There was only 10 of us in the company. It was a very, founder-led, fast-paced, startup mode. But obviously we've evolved. Now we're over 100 employees, and as we've passed over selling over 100 million packets and have crossed into major retailers like Target and Ulta, the culture has obviously evolved, and we try to understand what's going on with our teammates. We do a lot of also great perks where we offer our entire team unlimited insurance, because being your best in terms of how you feel and how you show up is the only way that you can show up and perform your very best if you feel great. And then alongside this, for us, I think consistency, and also just being consistent with the check-ins, being consistent with your one-on-ones. We do a lot of different things because we have an in-office environment. And as we do our employee surveys or quarterly surveys, we've been hearing a lot of, how do we create work-life balance? So again, we are also a very high-performance company and culture. So we said, listen, we can have this, we have what we call a speed of trust, where if we can, all really trust one another to make the right decisions, we have the right people in the right seats. We have now Fridays where Fridays are remote. And as long as we don't see that it's impacting business in a negative way, or the output of the workflow, and we're finishing still the week strong, we're going to continue doing that. And it's worked very, very well. So, hats off to the team for that, because, again, there was a bridge of trust there. But I think culture is always evolving, and you have to figure out, how do you create a workspace where people want to show up, where people can thrive and be successful, where they can trust one another, where there's that accountability. I think it's embedded in how you hire people and how you communicate with your team. We do a lot of quarterly town hall meetings where we talk about the state of the business. So transparency from us inside out is very important. We're transparent in how we formulate our products, so what's in our products, down to never compromising efficacy, and then that really plays a big role in who we are as our DNA as our company. So again, early on, it was very, instinctual of what we would do, but you have to go as you evolve from instinct to infrastructure.
I like that, instinct to infrastructure. All right, Danny.
Well, there was a lot there. I appreciate some great stuff was said there, and I think what Ben hit with things that resonate with people, like in a day-to-day way, it affects their lives, their happiness, and their health, and those of their families. Those are all great. But I think in a way, maybe we missed the boat, because the fact is, culture to me is more than days off. Like, yeah, heck, I don't even know. I think we have, my assistant's here. Do we have unlimited PTO? I think we do. And I do want people to take it. We do fun activities. We have to race to the company happy hour after this. And those things are great, but really what is the company culture to me is the way we interact with each other each day. We work in the office. 4 days a week we're inside. We work remote on Friday. And the culture is based on my interaction to the person who's to the left of me at my desk and to the right of me. And it's about clarity of vision. I find that the more clear I am with the company about what our goals are and what's expected, there's not this confusion which leads people to become somewhat toxic in their position. So we're really clear in our expectations. So if you know performance-wise what is expected of you, you approach it with a much more positive attitude. And when your neighbor in the office knows that as well, it reflects on everybody's performance there. So really at HexClad, everybody holds each other to an incredibly high standard. And when you're doing that each and every day, you have a really healthy environment. I love the fact that we work together. And in fact, Ben said they're fully remote, which is amazing. And here's the thing. There's no one size fits all. We're all different companies. I know we would not be where we are if we were fully remote. But I mean, in Ben's case, he's built a very successful company being fully remote. Durana and I have a similar, we're 4 days a week in office. That works for us. So what I have to do is I have to find a way to manage you and to lead you so you're excited to walk into the office because you just went through LA rush hour traffic to get here, and all the free cold brew and snacks aren't going to make it better if you're not energized when you walk in that door.
And can I add something? As we talk about culture really evolving, culture, like the evolution of culture, is community. It's how you build a community within your organization. We do something called Wednesday family lunches, and I guess early on I didn't really elaborate on what that meant, and I had my teammates bring their entire families into this lunch hour, and I was like, oh my God, do we have food for the kids?
Oh my God.
And so family lunches, like we really operate like a family. So every Wednesdays now, I say to the team, I can justify the expense, even though we've gone from 510 to now over 150. If we can just sit with one another and get to know each other, please don't talk about work, just get to know who you are, who's your counterpart, what makes them tick, what they're passionate about, what their goals are. So that's really helped. And then also doing a lot of community outreach. So once a quarter, we plant trees or feed the homeless, clean up the beaches together. So when you do this stuff, there's this level of community that you have that's truly unshakable. And I think that that's where, when you think of culture, it's really evolving into that, building community inside out.
I love that. And I think something that all of you have hit on is like you've designed a culture that works for your company and that aligns with your values. There's no one size fits all for company culture. You really do have to curate an environment that works for, one, the success of your company. You're all fast-growing, high-performance companies. And two, one that resonates with the employees that you have. I'd love to get an understanding of how do you translate those company values into scalable systems that show results or that bear results, and that way those values don't become elusive in nature, but you see them in the day-to-day interactions that you have either with your staff or your staff has with themselves. And I'd love to start with Durana.
Yeah, so the danger of scaling, I believe, is losing your ethos. And then when you lose your ethos, the challenge with that is you lose the connection with your employees and your teammates. And once you lose that, you've lost everything. So building and protecting your culture is the most important thing. Some of the ways that we do that, even today now, again, started in 2019, all the founders still show up in the office every day together, but I am incredibly passionate about doing the last round interviews. Not because I don't trust any of the leaders. I actually don't even ask any questions about the job or your skill sets. I just want to know who you are. I want to know about the adversity you've gone through in your life and how you show up for yourself. So for me, protecting the existing culture that we have today is something that I'm incredibly passionate about, especially because I know how hard we've worked to build what we have. So there's that. I also do what's called a Coffee Connect. So every week, my executive assistant or chief of staff or office manager will select just someone random, and it's 30 minutes where we'll cater in your coffee or matcha or drink of choice. And I just want to talk to you about you. And this is an open, safe discussion where we could talk about work, we could talk about your favorite color, we could talk about personal things. It's just, I want to get to know you, because I always say to my team, I spend more time with you than I do with my children. So this time together is very, very important. This journey together, the success, the failures, it's very personal. And so I want to get to know who I'm working with. I want you to understand me, and I want to understand you. And so we do the Coffee Connects, do a lot of leadership one-on-ones to make sure that we are connected. We have an open communication. We have an open door policy that we've had since day one. So I always say one of the reasons why I love in our environment where we are in office is because everyone has a seat at the table, and we want everyone to be able to get to that seat very quickly. So we value everyone's opinion. It doesn't matter what role you have within the organization, what your position is, what your title is. Everyone's opinion matters. And I always say, the reason we hire you is because we trust you and we think you're incredibly smart and talented. We're going to provide you with the resources and tools, and then get out of your way to do what we've hired you to do.
Danny, that sounds pretty similar to the philosophy that you follow, where your company was pretty much built on the belief that the best ideas come from anywhere. It doesn't matter what your role is. Can you expound upon that a little bit more?
Thank you for feeding me that softball question, because I was thinking
You're
that because
welcome.
it kind of it kind of builds on what Durana said, because the fact is great ideas come everywhere. Can come from anywhere, excuse me. What I love at HexClad is, we have cleaning people that are there every day. We have the president of the company, we have directors, we have VPs. The fact is, we nurture an environment where your opinion and your idea matters. Like, not too long ago, the person who sits at our front desk, I just said to her, I go, do me a favor, go to our website again and just go through it with your eyes and tell me anything that you feel is off. And she gave us a couple of good bits of feedback. And part of it was generational, which something I'm like, oh no, for me, because at my age, I'd be looking for this product, I want to feature that. And she had a good reason why somebody younger with roommates might want a lower priced option at the forefront. It was this silly little thing, but we just moved a bundle based on her feedback. But there's no stupid questions, really. The only bad question is the unasked question. We can move past stuff that doesn't work, but we got to be willing to talk to everybody in the office and collaborate. And that's the most important thing at HexClad. We collaborate. Because we're in office, we have the luxury of not trying to squeeze it in the last 2 minutes of a Zoom call. We can have it in the break room. I have a somewhat open door. I mean, you got to make an appointment, but I will sit down with almost anybody with the company, and it's amazing where a great idea comes from. It's unexpected. I tell them, I'm 60. I'm running out of ideas now. Now I need your ideas, and hopefully I can use my experience to make them better. But it is vital that people have self-worth, that they feel that their opinions matter, and that the company takes their goals and their aspirations seriously.
I want to switch gears just a little bit, because we have to talk about middle management. And Ben, I think you've spoken a lot about the perks that OLIPOP offers, but one that I really want to hear from you is OLIPOP's Leadership University. So middle management is make or break, and middle management is kind of a little worn out too. So what allowed you to come up with the idea of OLIPOP's Leadership University? What gaps did you see that led to building that internal development perk for your company?
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, first of all, I just want to say I resonate with an enormous amount that the two of you have communicated, the points made around the currency of trust, the cruciality of that. I really resonate, and I'll pivot off a little bit in terms of my feedback. I also really appreciate the reality that great ideas can and should come from all sorts of layers of the company. And actually, there's a lot of, so I tend to be very research driven. I tend to be very intuitive, but also I like to stack it up against performance research. I'm really lucky actually to have an executive coach who has a PhD in organizational psychology. She is an MFT. She's an internationally recognized performance researcher. She is a fucking lifesaver for me. She's also a good entrepreneur whisperer, so she helps me with my crazy ass. So the whole thing is great. And the point about middle management is so crucial. Some of the strategies that you guys have articulated, I just think they're fantastic, and you guys are doing an amazing job. B, some of those things worked a lot better for us when we were at that 50 to 100 person stage. Now we're going to end the year at about 300 people. And once you get past that 150 person mark, there's like really good research about how that starts to change how people interact with each other, how people start to interact inside of hierarchies. And you have to be ultra conscious about how you embed the things that made your company special, but you start to integrate them very mindfully into the scaled systems that you deploy against the business. And there's a million ways, which I don't have time to get into it. The OLIPOP Leadership University, I really appreciate you bringing that up. That is one of my pride and joys. We're in our 4th year of that right now. Even when we have regrettable attrition, when it happens, rarely, but when it does happen, we do exit interviews. People still flag OLIPOP Leadership University as one of the most impactful things to them, and sometimes it even kept people around longer. OLIPOP Leadership University came out of a couple of observations. One observation that I had was that senior leadership, and especially me, actually had to really grow because loss of relevancy and the emotional tumult that can create founders can actually become a very destructive force in a business where it's very founder-led. So how do I lean into the areas where I need to grow to be of maximum service to the company, and then learn how to create the right structures with senior leadership and general leadership through the business so they can really take on and grow in the areas and have responsibility for the areas where they need to grow. Now, we have a leadership ethos and we have company values. We keep our company values alive, not just by me top-down communicating them, but we have quarterly values presentations where I try to have at least 6 different people from inside of the company at all layers of seniority in the company communicate their interpretations and personal stories around those values, and that's a way that they stay not as wallpaper, but they're actually brought to life and integrated into the business. OLIPOP Leadership University, so in part, was to help me and senior leadership grow, but the point you just made was an enormous driving decision point, because what the data shows is that middle management is this absolute crucial make or break for your business. Most people's job experience is really tied to the quality of the person they're reporting directly into and the quality of that leadership. We all know that middle management folks tend to have operational expertise. They don't necessarily have people management expertise. And so that's that crucial moment where you want to get in and you really want to train them. We have OLIPOP Leadership University is broken out by cohort. So we've got our ELT, they're one cohort. Our SLT, which is the VPs, senior directors, they're a cohort. Senior managers, and then direct contributors with direct reports, they're in another cohort. And so our goal is to really equip them with those human leadership skills. We also have once a quarter whole company OLIPOP Leadership University sessions. Less than 5% of businesses offer that level of leadership support all the way through the business. But I just really recognized very early on that if we were going to keep that amazing culture and equip people with human leadership skills, a system like that would be very, very powerful. And again, it's a real pride and joy. And I'm extremely grateful that we've been able to build a program like that has supported the entire continuity of the business to up-level their leadership skills.
I really feel like you all could just lead a masterclass on workplace culture, and I wish we had more time to facilitate an entire masterclass. But before we go, I want to ask, we're currently in a state where, the American workplace feels more unsettled than ever, from economic swings and massive layoffs to return to office debates and even AI disruption, burnout, and as you have mentioned, and have been working within your companies of like a real erosion of trust between employees and leadership. And I would just love to hear from you. What advice do you have for founders who are trying to cultivate culture and build culture within their organizations during this time? Danny, I'd like to start with you.
there's a lot there to unpack.
There is.
Where to start? Look, founders are crazy people a little bit. They really are.
No offense.
We're all, and there's a lot of them out there. And kudos to you to take the insane journey of risking life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and money. It's an amazing thing, and it's great when you don't lose sight of who you are. And really that's what it comes down. Like we all talked in the green room, and the fact is our companies all represent who we are every day as we walk around in our lives with our loved ones and with the people we work with. And I really think that's key, because people, when they believe in somebody, they follow them. You're going to get people to do something two ways, right? They're going to either respond to the carrot or the stick. They're going to do it out of love and passion, or they're going to do it out of fear. I don't believe in scaring somebody. Like, you don't get the best when you're operating from that place. I want people to do what I did on a smaller scale within the company, which is come up with an idea, might be a little crazy, and then set about proving that it has value for us to grow. And if you do, you set that up, that's infectious in the room. People will want to do that for themselves. And you will enroll them into your idea and your vision. I see people on my team do it. So I would say to anybody out there who's starting, it starts with you. And you're ultimately responsible. Like one thing that Ben just said, which is really cool, about the strength of middle management. Sometimes some people do not realize how important that is. Because I'll tell you what, middle management can make some average vice presidents look great. But bad middle management can make a great vice president look like shit. So I think when you remember to stay true to yourself, your core values, and your company ethos, I think you're going to be a good leader, and you set up your team for that type of success.
Durana?
Sorry, I was dying up here on stage.
It is
Maybe
okay.
not a good idea to go to Coachella the week before this conference.
You're hanging on strong.
I lost my voice, and the cold water didn't really help, so I apologize, Ben. I was literally dying here. I'm like, where's my team with the cough drops? What a loaded question. So first, I want to just talk on AI really quickly. I think AI is the future. And so there's only two types of companies. There's those that's going to embrace it and get ahead of it, or those that are going to be left behind. So early on, we adapted an entire in-house AI department. And it's not to, by any means, replace anyone, but it's really to drive efficiency. It's to collect data. It's to figure out how to lower CACs and churn, and ultimately improve margins. So that's what we're really leaning into AI for. And then I think your second question, remind me, your second question was...
Advice for founders.
Advice for
building culture in
founders.
this climate.
Yeah, I mean, first, what I want to say is when you think about entrepreneurship, I think entrepreneurship makes you face every unhealed part of yourself.
Oh my God, good point.
So be prepared for that. There's so much that you learn about yourself, and it challenges you in a way that you've never been challenged before. And the other thing that people don't talk about, because we live in a time today where everything is a highlight reel, but you are going to fail more than you will ever succeed. And you need to embrace that. You need to be prepared for that. And as you fail, it's not about how many times you fail. It's not about how many times you fall, but it's about how quickly you're willing to get back up and staying true, as Danny said, to what your mission is. Intersecting your passion and your purpose and never giving up. You're going to have copycats along the way. I know, Ben, you've had many of them. But it's like knowing who you are and knowing what you bring to the table, knowing what makes your product subset so unique, and then just staying true to that and continuing to be consistent and do it on repeat. And again, just like embrace the failure, because it's a part of it. I always say failure is the admission to success.
Thank you. All right, Ben, take us home with a 10-second spiel.
I'll do that. Yeah, I'll do super fast. First of all, I just want to say, incredibly insightful point. I couldn't agree more. It's one of the reasons I've chosen the path of entrepreneurship is exactly for that reason, because it does force that extremely three-dimensional development. And sometimes I hire phenomenal people out of more typical corporate environments, but you can see the two-dimensionality of the thinking sometimes. And so we try to bring them into a more three-dimensional state of EQ and how all those pieces come together. And that can be a real challenge for people. The people who step up to that tend to do really well. There's not a whole bunch of, the points about transparency, showing up where you're focusing folks on the importance of the mission at all times, and you are demonstrating your own humanity and professionally appropriate levels of vulnerability, allows the team to understand that they get to be human beings as we go through this process as well. There's this lineage of basically trust creates competent debate creates buy-in, buy-in creates action, action allows for pivoting, and at the end of that road, it's results. And so that trust at the bottom basically builds everything else up from there. And then, there's not much else to say, but AI is that we're using it in the same way. No one's losing their fucking job from some AI, but if there's ways that we can incorporate it so that it helps with efficiency. But I also have packaged it with mental health courses around AI, because there's a lot of AI psychosis that happens, or there's a loss of critical thinking that's attached to it. So we always try to be responsible with our deployment of tools. But these two amazing human beings have said incredible things as well. So I think hopefully this has been a high value.
Well, thank you all for your time. Please give it up for Danny, Durana, and Ben.